It's sick and twisted that I have to work just to survive, just to live my life for basic necessities. Like, I don't want to work until the day I die just to eat and sleep. Basic human necessities, it shouldn't be controversial. Free housing, free healthcare shouldn't be a goddamn pipe.
This is the mindset that people throughout human history had. It's why so many nations had slaves, because why should you work when you can get other people to do it for you? Like the idea of free housings. Last time I checked, housings do not sprout from the ether. You do not plant them in the soil and they just happen to grow. Someone has to build them. So the question is, if you want free housing, who gets to build that house for you? And then, here is the kicker that socialists don't mention. If you want to get a free house, how many houses are you going to build for other people? Because you want equality. So if other people have to make a house for you, then surely you also need to make a house for someone else. Of course, they will probably say that, well, I just want to pay taxes to the government, so the government will build other people's houses. And this is actually how it worked in socialist Romania. But it never mentions where you are going to get the house. Because the government has central planning. And they view people as property of the state. So, in other words, in my country it happened that tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of peasants were removed from their homes and sent to the cities to work in the factories. Their entire way of life was uprooted, moved away from their friends, from their families, from their communities, from the life they had, forced into the cities, into the factories, to a life they didn't ask for. Why? Because it wasn't their house. The government gets to do central planning. It needs more people in the cities. Now, imagine if the opposite happens with this gentleman. Imagine if he gets a free house, but it's not his. It belongs to the state. It belongs to everybody. This is how they would say it. Well, it didn't belong to the state. It belonged to everyone. And now the government decides, okay, well, we need more agricultural goods. So this individual would be given a free house in a rural village with no Starbucks, with no internet. Why do you need an internet, Tovarish? Anyway, that's a capitalist luxury. And he would have to shovel manure for the rest of his days. Now, granted, shoveling manure, honorable work, someone has to do it. But do you think this individual would do it? And if not, why not? Like, someone has to do that job. How do you decide who gets to do the jobs that no one wants to do? Because they're required for a society. Shoveling manure is more important than being a diversity officer. Like, someone needs to actually take care of the husbandry. So, who gets to do it in this system? And why would you complain? You get your free house, but you happen to be in the middle of nowhere doing something you don't want to do. This is something that I never heard socialists answer. And as far as I know, it doesn't contradict any of the socialist dogmas. I mean, it's equality, right? Like, the government is providing you with what you're asking for, but it doesn't have to cater to your every needs. It's basic human necessity, as you said it. Oh, so if it's basic human necessity, well, as long as you have a house with a PV in the courtyard, then you should be fine. And then we move on to universal healthcare, which is very interesting because you get that in prison if you really want to. I mean, in prison, you also have free housing, you get free healthcare, you get free clothing, you get all the basic human necessities in prison, but you don't get liberty. And for some reason, that seems to be too much for a lot of people. Like, a lot of people don't want to go to prison. However, the idea of free healthcare, right? So, here in Eastern Europe, we have a lot of people who are suffering from an alcoholic problem, right? They're drinking themselves to death, as the doctors say it. So, they're drinking themselves to liver cirrhosis. And you want me to pay for their healthcare. So I live a responsible life. I do not touch alcohol. I do not smoke. I'm trying to live as responsibly as I can to take care of my health. But you're taking away now my money to treat people that don't take care of their health. How is that fair? How is that normal? Like why should I? Why should I pay for someone that doesn't take care of them? Why should I pay for someone else's decisions and poor lifestyle choices? Now, usually in systems like we have in Romania, the government puts an extra tax on alcohol, puts an extra tax on cigarettes. Why? Because it tries to discourage people from these unhealthy activities. So my question is, if you're in America, would you be okay with like a 50% extra beer tax or a 50% extra cigarette tax? Would you be okay with the government trying to fat shame people so that they go to the gym? Right? Because your health is now not your responsibility. Like, you're not in control of your health. The community as a whole is responsible for your health. So you better stay healthy. Are you sure you want that system? I for one, I do not think I really enjoy it, but like every single month that I'm healthy and I don't need any medical treatment, I still have to pay as if I'm going to the hospital. Because it's the insurance that goes to the government rather than, into my bank account. I would probably save a lot more money if I was allowed to like put a percentage into my bank account every month for the case that I need some medical treatment. But no, every month I have to pay the hospital bills, and I may not even ever need them. But apparently this is a fair and just system that this gentleman desires. And when you actually do go to the hospital, you have to pay bribes for the doctor so that they can see you in line. You have to sometimes pay for your medication because the hospital is out. Wow, a really beautiful system. What can I say?
Doing this or that. No. Like, what if I don't want to be rich? What if I want to achieve shit? I still have to work till the day I fucking die.
But what if you're stuck on an island? Like what if you're one of the first people that colonizes the Americans? Right? Can you do that? Can you just not do anything? No, you can't. Why? Because you want to rely on your fellow man to do stuff for you. That's the whole reason. When we had socialism here, and this was an ideology directed by the party itself, they would call people who are able to work and chose not to, they would call them social parasites. It was a societal stigma, if you will. So, as long as you had 2 hands and you had 2 feet, you had to work. There was no excuse, nothing that you could say in order to convince the party that you just deserve to stay home and waste time.
I still have to work till the day I fucking die just to live, just to survive. People give up their entire lives just to retire at the ripe age of 60 whatever.
That is such a huge step in human achievement. I mean, for most of human history, in all of the political systems we had, you were lucky to even get to the age of 60. And then you needed to hope that you have a large enough family so that they can take care of you. Like, the core problem that I see with these champagne socialists is that almost all of them, universally, they're city dwellers. And they think that the life in the city is how humanity has always lived and should live from now on. But if you look at human history, most people lived in rural areas throughout all of time periods. And they didn't have welfare. If you didn't work, you die. Even if you had your own land, if you don't go and plant it, if you don't go and take care of it, there's nothing for you to eat. You're making your own food. So now you have like these entitled people which are born in some of the best time in human history possible, in one of the most wealthy nations that you can imagine. Like, I'm looking at this guy. Let's say he just lives in a room. I don't know how his entire house is like, but I can guarantee to you, just by looking around, he is richer than most other people on the planet. At least he has a roof over his head. Other people don't even get that. I bet he may even have air conditioning. Do you know what a luxury that is? I wish I could take this video and show it to a child from Africa that has to descend into a mine in order to pull out the rare earth minerals that are required to make this individual's phone or to make this individual's computer, and say, look what suffering people in the first world have. Maybe that kid from Africa would say, you know what, hang in there, socialists, hang in there. I'm with you. I understand your pain. Like, I'm not saying that life is perfect, but to not even appreciate the things that we're having, to not look back in history and see what your ancestors went through in order for you to get here, and then still complain. And it's not like you're complaining that, oh, well, maybe things could be a little bit better. No, you're complaining as if it's hell on earth. You're complaining that as if like the suffering you're experiencing is much more than any other human throughout history has experienced. At least that's the vibe that I'm getting. And it's so tiresome. And not only that, the way that you're selling this ideology is that you deserve, right? Like, so other people need to do stuff for you, but you never mention, like, what are you going to do for those other people, right? So, like, okay, fine, other people give you free healthcare and free housing. What do you give in exchange? I mean, that's a lot, by the way. Like, you're receiving a lot, so you want equality. You need to be giving at least that in return.
For what? To get paid dirt? even then, people destroy their bodies physically and mentally just to feed into a capitalistic system that does not give a shit about you.
Name me the system where people don't have to destroy their bodies physically or mentally. Name me the system. Every system throughout humankind, you had to either sell your body or your brain in order to survive. There is no exception to this. None whatsoever. So, like, name me the system where you think people can just stay there and stuff gets being brought to them. Unless you're even the king in a royal household still had responsibilities. Like, he still needed to sell his brain because when war came, he had to be really good at warfare and strategic planning in order to defend his country if he wanted to keep his head on his shoulders. So, I don't know. Like, I don't know a single time period in human history where someone could just choose not to work and still manage to have everything.
God didn't make me the smartest angel, but I know that shit needs to change. And I don't want to be told that I'm ungrateful, that I should be fucking.
Man, I don't want to tell you that you're ungrateful. I just want you to experience China for like 2 weeks, right? But like actually live there and work there. Or North Korea, or any other socialist country throughout human history, right? And just 2 weeks, because anything more than that would be cruel and inhumane. But like 2 weeks would be enough for you to change your perspective, right? To go to Africa, see how people live there. And again, like fully integrated into the community, not like a tourist. Like you go to a hotel and people take care of it. No. Like you wake up at 5 a.m., you go to work with them, right? You take dinner and lunch with them, whatever they have to eat, you're supposed to eat it as well. And then you go to bed at 12 during the midnight, and you wake up the next day at 5 a.m. You do that for 2 weeks, and then you return to your lifestyle. And then we get to see if the same complaints apply.
Happy to have a job where it's taking up 40 hours of my goddamn week. You know, I want to spend time with my family. I want to do...
Again, like 40 hours of your goddamn week. You do realize that people during the Industrial Revolution put in 11 to 12 hours a day? Like children used to work? The Industrial Revolution wasn't capitalist, by the way. Like it was still part of the transition period. But I just want to point out how lucky you are that you don't have to deal with that.
Do shit that is fulfilling to me. But all that shit, like, requires so much privilege. It requires so much wealth. And it's just fucking messed up. Like, fucking universal healthcare, like, universal, like, basic income or whatever. Like, it needs to happen now.
Okay, a complete lack of understanding of how economics work. Like this idea that UBI, alright? So everyone gets paid UBI. Money doesn't create stuff, okay? Like, someone needs to shovel the manure. Someone needs to go into your sewer and clean that shit up. When your toilet gets clogged, throwing money at it isn't going to unclog it. Someone needs to come into your house and unclog that. The economy is not built on money. The economy is built on people working, selling their bodies or their brains. Now, you claim you're not comfortable with that. So how is it fair that other people should be comfortable with that? So other people should do something that you don't want to do. Right? And not only that, imagine going to the person that is working and is doing the stuff, and you show them your video. And you're like, look who you're working for. Look who the individual that you're breaking your back here in the mine. Yeah, like this is the guy that's going to benefit from the product that you're extracting. You're breaking your back, you're inhaling all of this toxic smudge, and all of that is so that this individual in the video can have a comfortable life. How are you feeling about that? I was really curious to see what the worker has to say.
Like, these fuckers got us to the moon. Like, y'all can fucking figure this shit out. But, you know, the rich just wants to get richer.
Everyone wants to get rich. Like the thing is, you say you don't want to get richer, but like you want to benefit from the same rich lifestyle. Like socialism is built on envy, right? It's not built on equality. If it was built on equality, the first thing you would ask is like, how can I build a house for someone else? How can I help other people so they don't have to work? That would be the mentality if it was legitimately built on equality. Your mentality is built on envy. It's how can I have slaves, right? Like how can I live, do nothing, and have other people do stuff for me?
They just want to keep exploiting marginalized people.
If the rich wanted to exploit marginalized people, well, kind of, but not the way you think. But if they wanted to exploit marginalized people, why wouldn't they just give UBI to themselves? Like, why wouldn't the rich just give universal basic income to themselves and keep everyone else poor? The rich exploit marginalized people when they have open border policies, right? Like so, for example, Romania. Here, the wage of a doctor when I finished med school was around $300. Now, you can work in Romania for $300, or you can take a plane to Germany and get a job for 3,000 euros. The question is, how many Romanians would stay in Romania? Not many, okay? So a complete brain drain of the nation. And these types of policies, I'm willing to bet that individuals such as this guy supports. Right? Like, oh, well, no borders, blah, blah, blah. So all the doctors, all of the brain drain goes into Germany, the United Kingdom, Italy, Spain, all these other countries. And meanwhile, in Romania, you have free public healthcare, right? I'm paying for that. But when I want to go to a hospital, I'm on a long-ass waiting list because the hospital is understaffed. It doesn't really have the time to see all the patients that are required.